To coin a phrase from a good friend of mine, we need to talk about the state of Gran Turismo. Um, this is the day of the latest update, 1.16, and it's pretty clear from the dissatisfaction from large parts of the community, and I would agree that it's time. Well, I feel like I need to use what little clout I have and pretty much throw away any chance of ever working with Polyphony Digital on any live event like I wanted to highlight some of the issues that myself and certainly my little community feel about the game. Now, I suppose the biggest litmus test before we go into all of this is people's participation in the game. We're seeing other people play other sim titles, people who are die-hard Gran Turismo Sport players and Gran Turismo 7 players. They're leaving to go play other titles. iRacing, Assetto Corsa, Competizione. There's a lot of talk about F1 2022 around the corner, and probably the biggest tell out of everything is the biggest creator. We're seeing nothing at all. Now, there are a few of the largest issues. There are plenty of issues, but to keep this, headline and as brief as possible, I've got a few bits that I think need to be heard about the most. The first one is the topic of the daily races. Now, with most of the menu books completed, pretty much everybody's done them now. The game's been out long enough. This is many people's bread and butter. And this is the way that games are going these days. Everyone's playing online. Gran Turismo Sport was probably quite a good indicator that Polyphony Digital know where the game and the gaming industry is going. But this is probably its biggest Achilles heel. And I know this because I do them all day, every day. We've got the same ones already. We're back at the Red Bull Ring. There's just no variety in the dailies. There's no strategy. There's no weather. And the weather point is a big one because I know many people, myself included, were sold on the dynamic weather. Now, the easiest solution would be, and one that gets spoken about quite a lot, is to bring in a daily race D, a daily race E, as many daily races as you want. You've got all the letters in the alphabet. But there just doesn't seem to be an appetite to do it. There's no reason why it can't be done. We see the Toyota Gazoo Cup coming in. We see the time trial coming in, which I can't really see the value in at all. Yet there is a neglect to bring in daily race D, daily race E, and it just gets a bit samey. And that coupled with the way that it's structured throughout the week, just by, the definition of practice, people get closer and closer to their optimum. So by the end of the week, everybody's pretty much set as fast a quality time as they can in the detached time trials. Now, you combine that with the rolling starts, which are just too far apart, and you just end up with everybody pre-shuffled into the order based on how quick they are. And it just becomes a procession. The only time that you're going to get any difference is if someone makes a mistake, or if someone drops to the back, which many of the quick guys do, to make it interesting. That's the only real time. Other than that, it's just going to be a procession. Everyone's going to follow each other around. You can often find yourself many, many seconds behind the leader, and it's just too far apart. And the timings of these daily races, so you've got A, B, and C. You've got the timings of them. By the time that you're done, say, for example, with Daily Race A, you've just missed the slot of Daily Race B or Daily Race C, and vice versa. There's no way that you can bounce around. We used to do Daily Race A, followed by Daily Race B, then Daily Race A, and then Daily Race C, and you could do that. You could jump with a few minutes in between, but you just miss the slot. That's been the theme recently. You're just missing the slot for the next one, so you've got to wait 15 minutes, just under 15 minutes for the next procession, and it's difficult to motivate yourself to do that. And a really good example of this was the Gran Turismo World Series Manufacturers Race a couple of weeks ago. We were at Nürburgring. Everything was great. We had the night there, we had the rain there, and we couldn't, for some reason, we could not do all 5 time slots because the race session would finish at about 3 minutes past the hour. Now that's fine, but what would happen is, in qualification, you were made to do the whole outlap of the Nordschleife, all 6-7 minutes of it, rather than doing what they actually do in the real world, which is just go around the GP track, and then rather than turning left onto the Nordschleife, they turn right onto the GP track, and they start their lap there, and then go around the Nordschleife. You've got that combined with the fact there was a timer at the end of it to allow people to finish their lap, which I understand. That makes sense. But when there's no one on track because everyone's finished their lap and the timer does not skip down to 0 because it hasn't recognised that there's nobody on track, and then that time is bigger than the time that you need to get into the next slot, it just doesn't make any sense at all. So the timekeeping of these events also is a massive frustration with the dailies. And as I say, that is the bread and butter. That's people's bread and butter. That's what they do. It just really does baffle me. And when you get into one of these samey dailies, the next thing that I want to talk about is the general game stability. Now, this may well have been fixed in 1.16. I haven't had a chance to test it thoroughly yet. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anyone free, so we'll give them benefit of the doubt on that one. However, one thing that we cannot give the benefit of the doubt on, and that we have seen, is the lack of stability in the lobbies. The lobbies are currently completely unusable and have been since the start. Now, with these samey dailies, they're incredibly important to create the races that we wish Polyphony would create, rather than just the sprints that are in every single daily that we seem to get at the moment. More importantly, a lot of people use these for community leagues. I know that there were plenty of them in Gran Turismo Sport. They're very, very important to some people. People get together, hang out with their friends, and go racing. They cannot do that at the moment. You can do it if you want to do 3 laps at the Nürburgring and just keep everything the same, but that isn't it. And again, it's something that should be there and should be working. For the price the game costs, it should be working. So game stability, along with dailies, are probably the biggest aspects of the actual game that I have a problem with. The other issue that I have, and probably the largest one for me, and the one that I cannot excuse, is communication. In this day and age with social media, it's not like when it was Gran Turismo 1. We can now communicate all the time. Whenever you want to speak to anyone, whenever you want to talk to a company these days, people tweet them, people Instagram them, all this sort of stuff. Communication with this thing called the internet is no longer a problem. And it is definitely the worst part about Gran Turismo. And the reasons why. So initially, when the game was released, the currency and all this sort of stuff was completely out of whack. After paying, up to £80, 80 British pounds for a game, there were microtransactions in there to do more. And you won too little so that you couldn't achieve it. So you were almost forced to buy these cars to complete things in the game. And that was very, very important to some people. It wasn't to me because I wasn't too concerned about getting all the cars or anything like that, and I played it enough to get it through the credits. However, I can absolutely see people's point. If I was a casual gamer, like many people are, I can see how that would definitely annoy me. And that was then reversed. That was acknowledged and reversed. But it still feels like, and I'm just going to put it bluntly, now that people's money has been taken, there's no desire to listen. There's no desire to listen at all. There's no mention of any of the stuff that I've mentioned at all, despite there being a rife of dissatisfaction and feedback out in the world of the internet via Twitter, by the community, by Facebook on the community. I've seen posts there. You've got places like GT Planet. You've got all of these. You've got Reddit. You've got all these kind of things. And also, you've got people like me and other people who make videos on it saying these are the problems. And despite that, we get no mention of these things online. No mention of them. Instead, for example, we get tweets about scapes. And we get tweets about the hot car, the cappuccino, and it's just completely not what everyone wants, and completely off the mark and not focusing on what people want. And it just feels like there's not just not listening, there's a complete disregard and almost like a blatant and brash just ignoring it, really. So for today's update, for example, we're sitting there, we're hoping for, of course, I mean, for me and for a number of people that I know, the main issues were forced feedback. That needs to be fixed. That was fixed. It was brought back to update 1.13. Again, there was communication issues about that. I completely understand why the move was made and why it was dumbed down. However, it's a very sensitive issue, especially speaking from experience with the Fanatec DD Pro. I know how much that thing costs, and it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So for it to be the official wheel of Gran Turismo, and for such a change to be made by Polyphony without any communication about it, was like people had their incredibly expensive purchase just taken away. And it only took an outrage and an uproar for them to be open about why they did it the next day. And it's just, why was it not said in the first place? It's just the communication is way off. And again, with today's update, we were, as I said, force feedback was a biggie, lobbies was a big one, and general stability of the game was probably the top three things for me. Instead, there are examples such as fixing an issue with the wheel colour in the thumbnail of the K-Cup. I didn't even know there was an issue. I don't know how many people actually participated in the K-Cup, but it just feels like there's a focus on stuff that nobody's interested in. And it leaves everybody, including myself, annoyed and frustrated. Not expecting great changes on anyone's behalf, but at least an acknowledgement, which there seems to be nothing. We get sporadic updates that are pouring content. There's no detail on the issues at hand, and there's known issues. The known issues page, there's a specific known issues page that tells you to turn it on and off again. tells you to uninstall it or reinstall it, the game that is, and it hasn't been changed in months. Again, the lobbies are on there. It's just not good enough. And I say that because I can go elsewhere and we can compare. So one of the largest gaming franchises in the entire world, Call of Duty Warzone. They have seasons, they have roadmaps of what content's coming, and that's on a free game. Warzone is a free game. And even if we go a bit closer to home, iRacing has seasons. You know when the updates are coming. You know what's coming in the update. They release an update. There's an issue. There's the community find issues. They do a hot fix the next day, and they communicate it. They've got two Twitter handles, one iRacing and one iRacing support. They've just got it nailed. There's a forum where all the community can talk to the people who actually develop the game. Can you do that with Polyphony Digital? No. It just feels like they don't care. I tell you what, I'll be the community manager. This is my official offer to you, Polyphony Digital. I will work for you for free and be the community manager. I would quite happily communicate things like your roadmap, your the things you have issues with, the things that you're thinking about doing, that sort of why you haven't done what you're doing. I will do all that, and I will do it for free because I care that much about this game, as does everybody else. And I don't want to go on too long because I've spoken on for too long already. So in closing, I'm not expecting anything in return. Previous form would suggest this won't gain any traction anyway. But I just want to go back to enjoying Gran Turismo. Rather than just waiting for the weekend for a bit of variety, if there's a good race on. I appreciate I'm invested in this because I gave up my old corporate job to do this full time, and this was the focus of it, Gran Turismo 7. So I am a bit more sensitive on this, I appreciate. But I'm not alone in this. And I think I speak for a lot of people. And I hope everybody, if you could, if there's other things, or if you completely disagree with me, or if there's things that you want added, put it in the comments down below so it can be seen if it is seen. Now, speaking directly to you guys, Polyphony, if you ever see this, I hope you listen. Take any of this on board, because we care about the game. A lot of us, me certainly, as a 36-year-old individual, I grew up with this game. I played Gran Turismo 1, Gran Turismo 2, all the way through. And we love it. That's why we're so passionate about it. Put to the side that I am trying to make my living from this. People love it because they've grown up with it. And because it's the best game it's not the best game. It could be the best game if you delivered on everything that you said you would at the PlayStation event. At the moment, it's not being delivered, and it just seems like you don't care. And I'm sure that's not the case. However, we need to tell you, and I certainly need to tell you, how I feel and how many others feel. We want it to succeed. I want this to succeed more than anyone. But things need to change. And as I say, that offer of being a community manager for free, it stands. I'm going to cut it off there. I've been speaking for too long. But all I'm going to say, Polyphony, is please listen. Please help us make this the best game that it can be, and that the game we all want it to be, before everybody goes.
and play something else, because you may have people's money this time round, but Gran Turismo 8, whenever that arrives, that could be a problem. Once bitten, twice shy, as they say. So, please listen. Please.